It's a trap. It's too late to go back. We thought we had the upper hand. We thought we had a foolproof plan.
No man on earth knows better President Trump and the way that he works than you, General. And so we deeply appreciate you being patient with us as we listen to that, because we always want to take the president live when we get an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and he's classic. I love him because he's just calling him out. He's being very kind by not saying that was a stupid question, like the one person asked whatever 2 or 3 times. And Benny, for you and your audience, I did catch the very tail end of Byron's interview with you. Byron is going to be a superb governor for the state of Florida. He has tremendous support. There's going to be, hands down, he'll be the next governor of Florida. And I'll just tell you, I'm blessed because I'm down in Florida now. I think we have 15 members of my family that now live in Florida. Wow. And we've been moving down here for the last 10 or 12 years. I moved down here 3 years ago, and we do an awful lot down here in Florida. So we're very excited. You were talking about Gavin Newsom. I wrote down Gavin Newsom, loser, Byron Donalds, winner.
So that sounds like an endorsement from a Florida resident.
Yeah, Byron is, he's got my vote, and he's going to be, like I said, he's going to be he's a tough stand-up guy, and no holds barred. He's got a great family. He knows exactly what Florida needs to do. I am a big education guy too. So I think the education system here still needs to be revamped quite a bit. And I was glad to hear Byron talking about that. So I know you asked me to come on, and because of this breaking news about this investigation against Comey, I'm so, believe me, my family and I. And also, I have a large family, so we have a text group, and it's like we're laughing at some of the stuff, the laughing emojis and stuff because it shit comes around, right? Goes around, right? So Comey's gonna see his day, and that's a good thing. The other thing that I was fascinated by the last 24 hours was the Covington Burling, a law firm out of Washington, D.C., which was an initial early law firm of mine. And it looks like, they were part of this thing that were related to Jack Smith. These are all tied together, Benny, and for your audience, all of these things that are happening right now where Trump actually, I think he suspended the clearances, and he also had, called for an investigation into what was going on with the Jack Smith case. Because when you take Comey and this quote unquote honeypot thing that he did, off books honeypot thing that he did, which means was running like a sex, prostitutes inside of the Trump administration, or paid agents inside of the Trump administration to get them to compromise themselves early on. This is back in 2016, summer of 2016. Everything from that point on rolls right into what Trump is doing. And when I say this, I want your audience to trust that Trump's strategic direction, he's got Doge doing stuff, he's got the vice president doing stuff, when he goes over to NATO. He's got, he did what Witkoff did in the Middle East to kind of tone things down. His initial shot across the bow of Panama was not about Panama, it was about China. But Trump knew that initially he needed to fight this fight over in Europe and in the Middle East, because the guns are going to turn, and I say that metaphorically, the big guns are going to turn toward China here very soon. But Trump was masterful when he took that shot across the bow at Panama, because Panama, and I've been looking at Panama for the last 20 years. I've been all over, and I've talked on your show about Panama. Mm-hmm. So all of this is converging together. And this all matters because a lot of this crap, Benny, and for your audience, started back in the Obama administration. And when Donald Trump won, they had to collapse their whole idea and reshape their whole idea about how they, in this case, the Obama regime with his globalist team, was going to take over the United States of America. And they started with Spygate or Russiagate. And so with Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, now in the Department of Justice hot seats, and Dan Bongino, thank God, that we are, and Ed Martin I love it, Ed Martin at the Attorney General's office in the District of Columbia. The barrels are going to be, opened up, and guys like Comey, get yourself ready, get your legal team ready, because it's going to cost you, buddy. And I'm going to tell you, there's no evidence that's being destroyed. There's, and I know this because, and you see me on X a lot, where I have whistleblowers coming to me all the time. And when they come to me, I immediately turn them over to people like Tulsi. I turn them over to people like, in the Department of Justice, people that I know. I turn them over to I have people in the IRS. I certainly have people in the intelligence community, and I have people over at places like the Drug Enforcement Agency. So whistleblowers are coming out of the woodwork, and they're providing direct evidence to these kinds of issues. And I'm going to tell you, Trump has got a great team there working those things, and these are things that are going to play out. And there's not going to be long Durham investigations. These are going to be, boom, and they're going to go right at it. They're going to prove these out, and people like Jim Comey, and all of them. When Trump, like what Tulsi just did, Tulsi just she didn't suspend, she revoked the security clearances, which is different than suspending them. Over 100 people on these porn websites that they're using classified and unclassified government systems. Jim Comey did things that were so egregious, so off the books. This guy, and when we were my family and I, we have a great Irish sense of humor. Jim Comey sitting on the stage, bragging about how he snuck into the White House, and on a better day, we wouldn't have been able to do that. Ha, ha, ha. Everybody laughs. Well, Jim, the tides have turned. And now, frankly, you mess with the wrong, like we say, fight like a Flynn. And I knew that we had to fight through this, and it was not easy, but we were able to stand our ground. We figured out a way out of it. My case was dismissed by the government, by the Department of Justice. And, and that what they should have done was they should have killed me there, Jim. And I know that they considered it. And so by not doing that, they picked the wrong family to mess with. And I'm going to tell you, we are so tied into the government, particularly the government right now. And I didn't sit on my laurels for the last 10 years and wring my hands and whine, nor did I for the previous 34, 35 years of my life. I have a great network of people, never mind my great relationship with President Donald J. Trump. So we're in a really good place. I'm very optimistic. We are going to fight tooth and nail, Benny. You have been a terrific component of this. I love what is happening with the White House Correspondents Association. I want that thing, I want that to be changed. I mean, there's so many good things happening, and what's going to continue to happen is that the beachhead has been taken. Trump's team is now getting through the hedgerows, like I said, after the election, and we are now starting to really win some major battles, metaphorically in this war that we are a part of. We can't declare victory yet, but victory is coming. And with people like that, with Byron Donalds, he is part of the victory. We are going to fight between now and 2026 to get more House of Representatives. I'm going to be pushing for more veterans to run. I want to pick up a couple of extra Senate seats. And if we can defeat some of these governors out there, particularly in places like Colorado, we're gonna.
General, there's so many follow-ups there and so many places we could go, but I have to just zero in on something that you said about James Comey. When James Comey was FBI director, he sent agents after you, which is why we were so excited to have you on the program, because you are one of the few people who truly understands this on a visceral human level.
Yep.
He sent agents in to entrap you. He pulled the same thing that they're investigating him for with the Trump campaign, and he pulled it over on you. Now, as you said, of course, all the cases were dismissed. You're scot-free, and now you're rebuilding, and the empire is ready to strike back.
Yeah.
But you have experienced this rat bastard and his dirty operations firsthand. One of the few people who are willing to talk about it. You said that James Comey should have killed you. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean it. I mean it. I mean, these people, I know that they talk about these things. So there's a group of people that talk, they discuss this because it's like, what do we want to do? We can destroy this guy. And then all of a sudden I start to fight back. We started to fight back, and I completely changed my whole I changed my legal team. I changed our strategy, huge gamble. And we started to fight back. And when we did, we started winning. And then we eventually won. And I know that there are conversations, and primarily outside of the government, that says, what do we want to do about a guy like Flynn? What do they want to do about a guy like Trump? They tried to kill him twice. He's the, as a candidate. I mean, his life is always at risk. Those of us that are on the periphery, and not on the, I mean, it's sort of in a right in that outer circle periphery. And I'm not talking about way out on the edges. I'm talking about right there at the edge of that sort of inner circle where we're still in there fighting it, mixing it up. These people they're scrambling. I mean, they know that they are busted. They're caught badly. Comey, he's just the beginning. Let me tell you something, Benny, and for your audience. These people put under the hot lights of a good interrogator or a good investigator, they will fold like a cheap coat. They will fold. I mean, and there are others. There are others, and I've named them. I've named them publicly on other platforms. Guys like Brennan, guys like Clapper, Mike Hayden. There are others out there that were part of the 51. Right? You bring those people in for questioning, I'm going to tell you, they'll fold. And I ain't talking about questioning by Congress in some committee hearing, where they put them back in a skiff somewhere, nobody can see them. I'm talking about get them in front of a really good line prosecutor that knows the Constitution, knows the rule of law, and has the evidence right there in front of them. Because guess what, Jim? There's a ton of evidence, and it's evidence that was withheld in my case that we were able to fight for and discover. And there's still a ton of evidence in my case that was not let go. Remember, I was part of the campaign. So I was part of the 2016 campaign to elect Donald Trump. I was with him every day. And so there's a ton of evidence that we know that is available. When they go, well, we're bleach bidding like Hillary Clinton did. Trust me, there are people that will and have come forward, and they're now talking. And that's what's going to break these people. And once that's presented, these people, they all act high and mighty like Jim Comey does, right? They call him the Cardinal. He's full of himself. These people will fold. And when they fold, the cards will start to fall. And believe me, it's going to result in many, many other people that are going to be busted here who have committed conspiracy to undermine not only a candidate for president, but a duly elected president of the United States. And that's in Trump's first term as the 45th president. It's happening right now, and it's the same people, same lineup, and they're just doing it a little bit more subtly. And that's why these whistleblowers, Benny, are important, because they're coming to us like this stuff with the NSA and the CIA. That's from a whistleblower that came out and said, "Hey, this is going on." And Tulsi, good for her. She's confirmed now. She's in the job. She's got a good team of people around her. She's getting fed these things, and this is really super important. I'm optimistic. I mean, I've never been more optimistic in my life than I am right now. And I believe we can get another 250 years out of this constitutional republic if we take advantage of this monumentally historic period with Donald J. Trump.
So I want to just remind quickly the viewers of what the general's gone through. Comey admits decision to send FBI agents after General Flynn was not standard. They set you up. And now it looks like one of Cash's, if not Cash's, first investigation was looking into this operation from Comey to set up Trump and his people. Yep. So this is what was published yesterday, and I just want to get your commentary on it since you were in the room and perhaps you know these spies. We spent the first hour of the show, General, talking about the ins and outs of this report. Apparently, James Comey sent spies in an off-the-books operation, an illegal operation, into the Trump campaign to work effectively as prostitutes or honeypots. Did you ever see or experience or witness any of these government spies? James Comey then hid all of this. Second part of the question, he hid it from the Inspector General. Is James Comey going to prison?
Yeah. So the answer to the very last part of your question is he should. Okay, he should go to prison if in fact all this plays out the way this thing the way what we understand now. So during the campaign, one of the things that we did hear about, and especially after we won in November of 2016, the spying that was going on inside the campaign. But to remind your audience, so we're talking about the Republican nominee for president of the United States, from essentially the summer of 2016 until he won the presidency. Jim Comey made the political decision, and now we have to find out who else knew about it. Did the Attorney General at the time know about it? Did the White House know about it? Did Susan Rice know about it? Jim Comey's going to have to have a moment, come to Jesus moment, when he's going to have to say, well, I did brief the President Obama and he was aware, or I talked to John Brennan about it. Because believe me, Jim, those people are going to be brought in and they're going to be asked questions. The agents that acted in those roles, that they were directed to act in those roles, they are going to be sequestered in a grand jury, and they're going to testify what they were told to do and when they were told, who were their targets, who directed them, what was their mission. I mean, all that is going to come out, and it's not going to take, like Durham did, 3 years. This is going to be found out very quickly, because believe me, some of those agents are still in the FBI, and I know this. Some of them are out, and they'll be brought in for questioning. This is what happens, Jim. So when I say to Jim Comey, you're busted. The best thing that you can do, Jim, and I would recommend strongly that you do this, and you consider this with your lawyers, that you go to the Department of Justice and you cut a deal. And you cut a deal that says, because you're not going to get out of prison, and maybe they'll give you a shorter period of time, but you conspired to undermine a candidate for president of the United States for one of the major parties, and then you continue to do it while after he was elected as president of the United States. That's basically treason. So you decide right now to cut a deal and come in there and you give up all the beans on all the other people that participated in this, and you can start with Obama, and you can let us know what's been going on from essentially the summer of 2016. Actually, we know it's prior to that, Benny, probably more like early spring, maybe even late winter, all the way to now. This stuff has not ended, and there's people like him, like Brennan and others that are at the pointy end of this spear, who I would call, they're the strategic foot soldiers still running this coup to take over and basically get Trump out of the way so they can continue this cabal that they have of this unified establishment government in Washington, D.C. It's just incredible. We are so lucky, and I'll get off my high horse here, Benny. We're so lucky that we dodged this bullet. And that's where I give the American people so much credit for their good God-given common sense, because we just weren't going to put up with it anymore. We had enough. And nobody's surprised at Jim Comey with this honeypot thing. Nobody's surprised. So, again, Jim Comey, if you're listening, or if you get this clip, you ought to consider giving up some evidence here, buddy, and cutting a deal with the Department of Justice. With, Kash Patel is not going to fool around. Dan Bongino, these are two leaders who understand the law, and they are not going to fool around. We cannot have this in our country, where people are undermining and conspiring to undermine and weaponizing, using the justice system and the rule of law to undermine political candidates and then to undermine presidents. And they've done this. We know that they've done this. So I'm a big fan of getting accountability. I believe we need it for the right reasons, and I believe it's coming. President Trump is in one of those, you can tell, President Trump is in one of those he's in a really happy mood. I mean, I like it. Every time I see him or I talk to him, he's just a good shit. And he is like in a good mood because he knows exactly what he's going to do. And frankly, if you know him enough or you're watching what he's doing, he's got a very strategic direction that he is taking the United States of America down. And we are blessed that this country, during this historic period of time, to have him as our president. And that's what I believe will give us hope for all of us, and then beyond Trump, that we can last another 250 years.
General, yesterday on the program, we had a member of Congress, Anna Paulina Luna, who was saying, treason charges should happen if, in fact, some of these CIA agents share classified information with our enemies. She was talking about treason, and she's a veteran herself, and she said capital punishment is something that should be on the table for people that share America's secrets. And you just brought up treason with James Comey. Yeah. Do you believe that treason charges could potentially be on the table for these individuals who planned a coup against a duly elected president?
Yeah, first of all, I'm a big fan of Representative Luna. She's super brave and more than outspoken. She actually is a woman who is she acts, right? She not only talks, but she acts, and she's doing a lot of great things for our country. So the answer to your question is yes. I mean, am I for the death penalty? I am for the death penalty for certain acts of criminal acts that are so egregious. Like, for example, anybody who sexually assaults a child, right? Someone who is involved in child trafficking that is so outrageous, horrific, egregious, whatever adjective you want to use. That those are the kinds of people that I think should receive the death penalty. People that have committed treason, the levels that we have seen, that ought to be on the table. Now, I'm not, a constitutional scholar and as it goes, but I would tell you that there are people in this country, millions and millions of Americans, and a lot of them watch your show, Benny, that feel exactly like I feel. And if these people are discovered to have conspired to commit treason, to undermine a duly elected president of the United States, and if they're still involved, and I know that there are some, this is why I've been very hot on my social media sites, because I want people to know that you will be held accountable. I said this before. Now we have people that are taking a deep breath, and they're like, thank God that Trump won. And we got whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork, and we're funneling it into the right governmental offices to do the right things. And let me tell you, these people are busted. And so for Jim Comey, that's why I said earlier, Jim, if you get this message, start thinking about what you're gonna give up, because you're gonna give up some of your freedom, because you're gonna go to jail. You must go to jail because of what you did. But maybe they'll cut you a little bit of a deal, and they'll put you in a softer prison for a shorter period of time, because you're able to give up some evidence on some of these other people who are even more deeper than you involved in this. Because Jim, you know exactly who I'm talking about.
General, your team is saying that we have to wrap and that you have another interview. But of course, I'm going to ask one final question. You can make it as short or as long as you'd like. So you are telling people that there will be frog marches. There will be people in handcuffs. People will be going to prison. You know this as a matter of fact. Two-part question. Where do you want Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to go next?
Yeah, I think that at their level, what Dan and Kash will do, I think what Dan ought to do, kind of a down and in, help Kash with the reform of the organization, of the FBI, clearly. Dan is the right guy to really look at the reform. Kash has to look at, and leveraging the Department of Justice, Kash has to look back at everything that has transpired going back to early 2016 all the way through the everything from Spygate, Russiagate, the impeachments, all these different things, and really come up with a strategy with Pam Bondi and Tulsi Gabbard, because the intelligence community has a lot of capability that they can provide, and the president of the United States, and frankly the vice president, and come up with a overarching strategy to start to not just pick at scabs here, Benny, but rip these scabs off. And Trump already started to a degree by going after the removal of clearances, and so he's starting to scratch at it. And he did the right things, but he needed his team together. He's having that first cabinet meeting today, very important. And from that cabinet meeting, I think Kash, Pam, Tulsi, probably a couple others, and maybe even Bobby Kennedy, he'll have a piece of this. he'll have a piece of this, and definitely Pete Hegseth. So there's got to be a strategy that says, look, we have to go back. We have to pull all these threads together, hold people accountable, because we're going to move this country leaps and bounds forward going into the future here. Because one of the things that Donald Trump has to do is metaphorically, he's got to turn the battleship guns on China, and he's got to start focusing on China, because China is they're eating our lunch and they're inside of our government, because the Biden administration, frankly, the Obama administration allowed them inside of our government structure. So those are, sort of strategically, those are a couple of pieces of direction that I know they're going to be taking.
Just a yes or no answer from the general. Nobody respects you more than our audience. Will we get handcuffs? Will we get prison sentences? Will we finally get arrests? The long promised 10 years that we've waited to see these criminals operate. Will we get arrests, General?
Yes. And for Jim Comey, start measuring yourself there, buddy. I know you're kind of a tall guy. So, go to a tall man's shop, send your measurements over to the Bureau of Prisons, because it's coming.
Everybody follow General Flynn right here, ladies and gentlemen. The general here with 2 million subs. Obviously, get in there and make sure that you are giving power and energy to a man who's fought so hard for you. And I hope, General, that you take Trump up on his offer. He says you can have any job you want in the administration. Boy, howdy. We can think of a few.
God bless, buddy. See ya.
God bless you, General.